A world that sometimes feels like it's spinning too fast, where bills pile up and hearts break in silence. One ordinary man made a choice that changed everything. Picture this: a single dad in a quiet American town, exhausted from long days on a construction site, staring at an empty spare room and wondering how he'd keep food on the table for his little girl. He decided to rent it out, not out of greed, but out of pure desperation and a quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, one small act could make things a little easier. What he didn't know was that the quiet college teacher who walked through his door carried a secret that would rewrite their lives with the gentle power of kindness. This is the story of how one open door sparked a chain of compassion that healed old wounds and proved that kindness isn't just nice, it's life-changing. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll be looking for your own chance to make someone's day brighter. If you're loving stories that remind us what really matters, hit that subscribe button right now. Give this video a thumbs up if it touches your heart, and drop a comment below sharing a time when kindness made a difference in your life. Your support keeps these heartfelt tales coming. Ryan Hale had always been the kind of guy who showed up for others. At 38, he lived in a modest 2-story house on the edge of a sleepy Ohio town, the kind of place where neighbors still waved from their porches and Friday night football lights glowed in the distance. 3 years earlier, a rainy highway crash had taken his wife, Emily, leaving him to raise their 9-year-old daughter, Sophie, alone. The grief still sat heavy in his chest some nights, but he'd pushed through for Sophie. Construction work paid the bills, barely. He patched roofs in the summer heat and shoveled snow in the winter cold, always making sure Sophie had clean clothes and a packed lunch. But the mortgage notices kept coming, and the fridge stayed too empty for comfort. One evening, after tucking Sophie into bed and kissing her forehead, Ryan sat at the kitchen table with a cup of weak coffee and made a decision. "We'll rent out the spare room," he whispered to himself. "Just until things get better." It wasn't much, but it felt like the only kind thing he could do for his little family. The ad went up online that night. "Quiet room for rent. Single dad and daughter. Must love kids." The responses trickled in, but most weren't right. Then came Era. She showed up on a crisp autumn afternoon with one suitcase, a stack of worn paperback books, and the softest smile Ryan had ever seen. She was 29, a literature teacher at the local community college, and she introduced herself simply as Era Winslow. "I'm looking for something real," she said, her voice warm like a favorite sweater. "No fancy stuff. Just a place that feels like home." Ryan liked her right away. She paid the first month's rent in cash, helped carry her own bags upstairs, and didn't complain when Sophie peeked shyly around the doorframe. That first evening, Era joined them for spaghetti dinner. She listened as Sophie chattered about her favorite book, The Secret Garden, and even offered to read a chapter aloud after the meal. Ryan watched from the sink, drying dishes, feeling something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Week by week, Era quietly wove herself into their lives with the kind of kindness that doesn't ask for attention. She noticed Sophie struggling with her reading homework and started sitting with her every evening at the kitchen table, turning pages together and asking gentle questions that made the stories come alive. "What do you think Mary feels right now?" Era would say, and Sophie's eyes would light up. Era helped with laundry without being asked, baked chocolate chip cookies on weekends, and even fixed the leaky faucet in the bathroom with a toolbox she borrowed from Ryan's truck. Ryan tried to thank her, but she'd wave it off with a laugh. "We're all just trying to make it through, right? A little help goes a long way." He started looking forward to coming home from work, hearing laughter float down the stairs. Sophie began calling Era Miss Era, with the same affection she once saved for her mom. For the first time since Emily's passing, the house didn't feel so empty. Ryan saw little glimpses that Era carried her own quiet pain. Sometimes he'd catch her staring out the window at the falling leaves, fingers tracing a small silver locket around her neck. She'd smile quickly when she noticed him looking, but her eyes held a sadness that mirrored his own. One night, after Sophie had gone to bed, they sat on the front porch with mugs of hot cocoa. "You're really good with her," Ryan said softly. Era looked down. "Kids deserve to feel seen." I didn't always get that growing up. She didn't say more, and Ryan didn't push. Kindness, he was learning, also meant giving someone space to carry their own burdens. Then came the day that tested them all. Sophie collapsed at school during recess, pale and dizzy from what turned out to be severe exhaustion and a hidden ear infection that had been brewing for weeks. Ryan rushed from the job site, heart pounding, to find Era already at the hospital waiting room. She had left her afternoon class early after the school called her as the emergency contact listed on Sophie's forms. I didn't want you to be alone, she whispered as they waited for the doctor. Era held Sophie's small hand through the floor, read stories from her phone to keep the girl calm, and even convinced the nurses to let her stay past visiting hours. Ryan watched her, gratitude swelling in his chest. This woman, this near stranger, had stepped up like family. That evening, back home with Sophie tucked safely in bed, Ryan overheard Era on a hushed phone call in the hallway. Yes, the trust fund is still there. No, I'm staying low profile. This life feels real. His mind raced. Trust fund? He confronted her gently the next morning over coffee. Era, if there's something I should know. She took a deep breath, tears glistening in her eyes, and told him everything. Her full name was Era Winslow Hartford, the only daughter of a wealthy East Coast family that owned sprawling estates and investment firms. After her father's sudden death a year earlier, she had walked away from millions. The money had come with strings, cold boardrooms, fake smiles, and a life where kindness was measured in dollars instead of heart. I wanted to teach, to connect with people who mattered, she said, voice trembling. I wanted to feel human again. Your home, your kindness, it reminded me what family really is. Ryan sat stunned, but not angry. He reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You didn't have to hide from us. You've already given us more than money ever could. Word of her inheritance soon reached the house when a sharp-suited lawyer knocked on the door. Era's father's will had finally cleared, naming her sole heir to the entire Winslow fortune. She had to fly back east to sign papers and settle the estate. Sophie cried and begged her not to go. Please don't leave us like Mom did, the little girl whispered. Era hugged her tight. I'm not leaving forever. I promise. Ryan drove her to the airport in silence, the weight of unspoken feelings hanging between them. He had fallen for her quiet strength, her gentle laugh, the way she made their broken little family feel whole again. Come back, he said simply as she stepped out of the truck. She nodded, eyes shining. I will. Months passed. Ryan and Sophie kept the spare room exactly as Era had left it, books still stacked on the nightstand, a handmade bookmark Sophie had given her resting on top. They received occasional postcards from Era, short notes about city meetings and long nights sorting through paperwork. Then one spring morning, a black car pulled up outside their house. Era stepped out, looking softer somehow, wearing jeans and the same worn sweater she'd arrived in. Behind her, a moving truck carried boxes, but she wasn't there to leave again. She had donated nearly all the inheritance to education programs across the country, scholarships for single parents, after-school reading clubs for kids like Sophie, and a brand-new community learning center right there in their Ohio town. The money was never mine to hoard, she told Ryan on the porch, voice steady. You taught me that kindness is the real wealth. I kept just enough to build something that lasts, for us, and for families like yours. Ryan pulled her into a hug that felt like coming home. Sophie raced out and wrapped her arms around them both, laughing through happy tears. In the weeks that followed, they turned the spare room into a cozy family space. Era moved her things downstairs permanently, and the three of them started building a new life together. Picnics in the park, bedtime stories read in three voices, and quiet evenings where kindness flowed as naturally as breathing. Ryan proposed on a warm summer night under the same porch light where they'd first shared cocoa. Era said yes with the brightest smile he'd ever seen. And so, what began as a struggling dad's desperate decision to rent a room became a beautiful reminder of how powerful one small kindness can be. In a country full of busy lives and heavy hearts, Ryan's open doors showed that we never really know who we're letting in, or how much light they might bring. Era's choice to live simply, to give back, and to stay prove that true wealth isn't in bank accounts but in the hearts we touch. Their story spread quietly through their town, inspiring neighbors to check on the elderly widow down the street, to donate school supplies, and to smile at strangers a little longer. So the next time life feels hard and you wonder if your small gesture matters, remember Ryan and Era. A rented room, a shared story, a hand held through hard times, these are the threads that stitch us together. Kindness isn't loud or flashy. It's the quiet choice to show up, to listen, to stay. It ripples outward, healing families, lifting communities, and reminding us that we're never truly alone. Go out today and be someone's unexpected light. You never know whose secret miracle you might become. Thank you for watching, and keep spreading the kindness that makes this world worth living in.